And I tell them all the time, you can do everything right. If there were ever such a thing and you were the perfect parent, your child could still make choices that get them in bad situations because you can teach. That doesn't mean they utilize, right? Some of us need to learn the hard way. Some of us are just programmed for more risk. Like, you can do all the things, but I'm still my own individual person. I'm going to make my own choices.
Welcome to The Shield. As always, this is a place where we sit down, we talk about the intersection of mental health and substance use on all facets of life, and in the meantime, really highlight some amazing and inspiring projects and people that are happening in Birmingham and Central Alabama. As always, this is brought to you by the Children's Trust Fund. We are so grateful for the sponsorship and the ability to do this podcast. And speaking of the Children's Trust Fund, they are actually how we are able to do the thing that we're going to talk about today. And so with me is Dannette Bivins. She is a mental health therapist, and has her own practice called Intentional Healing. Mm-hmm. And we've worked with Dannette now for a couple of years on a program that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But first, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
I appreciate being here.
First podcast?
First podcast ever.
Are you a podcast listener?
No, not really.
Okay, fair.
I dabble.
Fair. I'm not either, to be honest.
I dabble. I do more audiobooks.
Okay.
So my drive time or my listening time, it tends to be audiobooks.
Gotcha. So mental health therapist, beforehand when I was asking you, what you wanted me to call you, you were like, well, if I say counselor, there's financial counselors, there's all kinds of counselors. And if I just say therapist, then people think I'm a physical therapist.
Yeah. People actually call me a lot, thinking that I am a physical therapist.
Oh,
like
so
they
think
call intentional healing. They're like, hey, can you knock my back out, or can you fix my leg? And I'm like, yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, you're like, no, I'm more of the mental.
Yes, I do the inside stuff, not the outside stuff.
So, okay. I feel like therapy gets a bad rap.
Absolutely.
Okay. Why are you a therapist?
Yeah, that's the question everybody asks, right? And I fit the stereotype.
By the way, I literally just came from a virtual appointment with my therapist.
Yeah.
I love therapy.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the only way that I'm sitting here with you today.
Yeah.
But if you've never been...
people have a completely different view
totally.
of what it is.
And people think you're laying on the couch and you're, yeah. So how did you get into this?
Yeah.
Let's start there.
So the stereotype is that most therapists become therapists.
Because they're cuckoo.
Well, what I was going to say is that you've had an experience where therapy impacts you.
Oh, okay.
That's a better way of saying it.
Got it. Okay.
But for me, it was really family therapy, which is why I really wanted to be a family therapist.
Okay.
So, long story short, and I'm not going to go into too many details because that's my brother's story to tell.
Yes,
but,
you'd say whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Growing up, my freshman year of college, my parents divorced, and I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, the only girl, and the middle sibling went through a very difficult time dealing with that transition.
Yep.
And had issues with substances and ended up being hospitalized in a mental health hospital. And had a lot of near-death experiences. And so while he was in the mental health hospital, he was there for several weeks, and we had to do mental health therapy as a family.
Okay.
And I grew up...
It was mandated
It was mandated.
Okay.
Part of the issue was the family. We need to stabilize the family in order for him to be able to come out. And not just stabilize himself, but you can stabilize the individual, but once you come out and you're back in the family, you're right in the chaos again.
That's right. You have to address the whole
system.
The whole system.
And so it was the first time I'd ever been in therapy. And I grew up in a very, I would say, Southern traditional family of where things get swept under the rug. And so we didn't talk about things. There was always the elephant in the room. And we had to actually talk about things.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember leaving even just the first therapy appointment as a family and being like, that was so amazing. Because I always wanted to talk about things.
Especially as the oldest, right?
And the only girl,
yes, exactly.
and I took care of them. I was very what we call parentified, where As a child, I was really an adult. And even a couple years ago, I ran into my great uncle. I hadn't seen him in over a decade. And he was like, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "I'm a mental health therapist." And he literally started laughing out loud. And I said, "What's so funny about that?" And he said, "Do you remember what you used to say at family gatherings?" And I said, "No, what did I say?" Because I've always been outspoken. And he said, "You used to look at us and say, one day you're going to write a book about this family because we have some issues." And he thought it was so funny. And so that was the thing. I knew there were issues. I wanted to get them fixed. And therapy was really the first experience I had of like being able to fix the things. And I was like, I'm going to be a family therapist. And so
Wow.
I went and got my master's and I did a marriage and family concentration. So I'm dual licensed. A lot of therapists in Alabama have their LPCs, which is
They're-
licensed professional
Yep.
counselor. And so you can practice in whatever domain with that. But then I have a specialty licensed marriage and family therapist license. And I have additional training in working with families and within systems like couples. Yeah. Oh, it's the best stuff. It's the best stuff.
As somebody who's been to couples counseling a couple of times,
You know, the thing about
sorry.
the thing about couples counseling, I tell
Ronnie,
you-
you're laughing. Have you ever been to couples counseling?
yeah,
Isn't it hard? Whoa.
it takes so many sessions
Phew-wee.
to actually feel like it's positive, right? Like when
Whoa.
couples come in, I'm like, listen, it's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
True story.
It goes back to you sweep so many things under the rug, right?
Yeah.
Like you pick and choose what you deal with. But when you're in the therapy session and you're dealing with the big issues, you're talking about the things that you purposely don't talk about at home because
Yes.
it leads to conflict.
Totally.
So I'm essentially stirring the pot and creating the conflict so that we can resolve it. So when you're not in session, you can actually handle the conflict, right? And so people hate couples therapy. And I've had some people quit really early on because they were like, we argue more trying to fix it
Yeah.
than not trying to fix it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's the same thing with regular therapy, right? Like, you
Oh,
go
it gets
in,
worse. Oh, look. I have been seeing my same lady since 2020.
Yeah.
And I feel like I love her, by the way.
Yeah,
And
good.
In case I haven't mentioned that, Erin, I love you. But I never met her in person. It's always been virtual.
Yeah.
Been there for 5 years. Well, no, 6 years now. She's
Yeah.
been through a lot with me. And just now, I feel like it's clicking.
yeah,
Like really, like I just
Ronnie's
feel,
shaking his head, like,
yeah,
yeah.
I just feel like it's clicking. And
Yeah.
I even said to her just this morning, I'm like, I feel like it's working. It's only taken 6 years, you know? But part of it is you
Everybody's
just have
process
to
is so
keep
different.
showing up.
oh, absolutely.
And I will agree. The 2 times I've done couples counseling, I quit way too soon.
yeah,
I quit.
this is
because-
hard.
Oh, it's bleh.
And you don't have the control over it the way you do an individual session.
Correct.
Like you go into individual therapy and you have your list to talk about.
That's right.
But when you go into couples therapy or even family therapy,
Yes.
you don't know what anybody else is going to bring up. So it kind of maneuvers in a way you didn't expect. And sometimes that takes longer because you have your parts you're bringing to the table.
Right.
And I, as the partner or other family member, have my parts to bring to the table. And so it can take longer to actually feel like it's working.
Yeah, and you're right. It's like there's something that feels special or different about the room or the space.
Absolutely.
And you bring it in, but then sometimes you don't always know what to do when you're out in the real world.
Yes.
And it's like, well, I'm gonna hold on to this and talk. I'm gonna hold on to this and talk about it in a month when
Yeah.
we come back, or or then you're like trying to use the words and tools,
yes.
but if you don't know how, it can also
so challenging.
yeah,
So
and whether
challenging.
that's for a parent and a child who are in family therapy, or 2 partners or whatever, it's really hard.
Yes.
So you have to just kind of keep coming back and doing the work.
Yes. You just have to be committed to the process.
So you said that your brother and vis-a-vis then the family was mandated,
Yes.
and that was your first experience. And a lot of times when, and this isn't my own experience, I've always went into it voluntarily, yes. And sometimes I volunteer people that they need to do it with me.
Yeah.
But I do have several people in my life who have been mandated, either by their parents that are like, you're going to do this thing, or by school or by whatever. And that sometimes doesn't leave them with a positive
Oh, absolutely.
experience.
Agreed.
So, but for you, it really was eye-opening.
It was. And I think a lot of that, being on the other side now, working sometimes with mandated cases,
Yep.
primarily for me, it's with juvenile court.
Yes.
So I specialize in working with adolescents. And within that demographic, I have a niche of working with kids in the juvenile court system and juveniles with problematic sexual behavior.
And their family systems.
And their family systems as a whole. And so a lot of times, kids within the juvenile court system that I see specifically, they may be on probation and court ordered to do therapy. And so they come to me with like a chip on their shoulder.
They're like sitting there like, I don't want to do this.
They're checking the box.
Well, look, you also don't want to be in juvie.
Right.
Let's have a choice here.
Correct. And they feel like they're just going through the process.
Yeah.
But I think the real difference is the relationship.
Totally.
So studies show that the primary thing that makes therapy beneficial is the relationship between the client and the therapist. And so when they come in, my goal is trying to make sure they understand, even though it's required that they be here, our interaction is not required, right?
Right.
They can be here in the room. They can talk as much or as little as they want. There are certain things they still have control over. And a lot of times working on that dynamic and that relationship, even though they come in initially not wanting to be there, a lot of my kids even continue once they get off probation, are not required to come.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really about making sure they still feel like they're in control and that it's still their space.
They still have, it's like a sixth grader who's like, everyone tells me what to do. Well,
yes.
Okay, yes, you're sitting here in class because you have to, but you don't have to engage with me. You don't have to be answering my questions.
Exactly.
You don't have to be laughing with me. Like, you're choosing to do those things, or you're choosing to completely disengage.
Yes.
Right? So it's like connecting with them to make them feel like they really do have some autonomy and some power.
Yeah, and that's where the change happens.
Yes.
Because they know they're in control of it.
So you started this family practice, family therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and then how did you get into this niche of working within the court system with adolescents, particularly with like sexting?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so how did that come about?
So working through my graduate program, you have to do internships to get your counseling degree. And one of my last internships was at Hillcrest Behavioral Hospital. And at the time, they don't have it anymore. They had the Phoenix unit, which was actually juveniles with problematic sexual behavior. So more like juveniles that not just sexting, but that engage in inappropriate sexual behavior with others.
Got it.
And that's just a niche that a lot of people don't like to talk about.
Oh, right.
It's something we don't like to think about, that
Right.
like juveniles are like touching people in ways that they shouldn't. A lot of times we think about like adults that do it, and we have like a stereotype for that.
Correct.
But
Correct me if I'm wrong. If a young person is doing it, there's probably some trauma there. They're mirroring.
there's a lot of different
There's a
points
lot
of
of things
cases that may
right,
happen.
Right.
So
right.
sometimes it is that they are a victim. Sometimes they really don't know any better. Like some people don't like to hear that, but I tell people you're a product of your environment.
Yeah, if you're like watching things and hearing things and seeing things, you don't know. You don't
You don't know that
You
other
don't
people
know.
don't do that.
You don't know.
You only know what you know. Is what I tell people all the time. Like there are ways that my brain works that I may just assume other people think that way.
Yeah.
You know, like it's natural for me to be anxious about doing the first podcast. And then some people who don't have like chronic anxiety like I do may not be as anxious. But if we don't talk about those things, we
Right.
don't know the other experience. And so I really enjoyed working with that population and being
Very
able
misunderstood population.
very misunderstood. And the gentleman that was running that program, the only way they really had interactions with females, because the entire program was all males. They were
Okay.
all boys. And so coming in as an intern and being able to be a positive female influence and like having them learn appropriate boundaries with the female,
Yep.
and being able to see like how to respect a female, it really made a difference. And like even one kid, I still think about him that was like my assigned kid, right? Like I would do groups with the program, but then I had like my certain individual cases where we would do weekly therapy. And he had never had an appropriate relationship with an adult female. And
Wow.
you know, you come in, he was just kind of like
How old was he, would you say?
15.
Wow. 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 Wow.
And had just never had any positive interaction. Didn't really know what that was supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of our time working together, when I had to leave my internship, if you spoke badly to me in group, like, you don't talk to Miss Dannette like that. You know, he would open doors. He would excuse himself when he did something he wasn't supposed to. If he said something, he was like, if he slipped a word he didn't think he should say in my company, he would apologize. And just being able to have that positive interaction and, you know, expanding that out to kids as a whole, a lot of what I see, even with sexting, right? Sexting is so prominent, but not everybody addresses sexting. You know, it's kind of like the things that kids do, they think everybody does, and they don't really know the inappropriateness of it. They don't know the laws about it.
Right.
And so until you educate them and you help them to see all the dynamics and get out of their perspective of like, what are you going to do if I don't send this photo? And think about what it means for their life or how it impacts the other person, then they make changes, right? And so it really, what I like about working with this population and with like problematic sexual behaviors or sexting is the education component. Yeah. Once a lot of youth realize the information about like the law, for example, or realize the victim stance of like how it affects someone else, their behavior changes. And the thing about working with adolescents is, and what I like about juvenile court specifically, is the goal is to shift the behavior and shift the trajectory, right? So it's not about being punitive.
That's right.
It's not about treating them as if they're an adult, but like learning and their brain still developing. Let's implement some things that help them to make different choices in their adulthood.
Yeah.
And that's what I live for. Like, that's what I like.
It is early intervention.
Absolutely.
Because
to a T.
We know that, I mean, we see this in the substance use world, right? And you and I have even talked about this. Like, we know the goal is for kids not to use substances.
Yes.
We know that that's the goal. And we also know that some kids will experiment.
Absolutely.
Or be curious or be using it to numb or things like that. What it doesn't mean is that then we just need to throw our hands up and now put them in a box for the rest of their life.
Correct.
And say, oh, well, you need to go to X treatment center. You need to do this. You should never drink alcohol again, even when you're, 21.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Like, we put them in a box. And so if we can intervene early on some of these problematic behaviors that are getting them in trouble, making them, get in trouble with the law and in school and fight with their parents or their caregivers, if we can get them on a different path, then we are intervening early and we are doing the thing that it's indicated prevention.
Yes.
And so it doesn't mean that this kid will never have an issue again. It doesn't mean that this kid can never drink alcohol ever again. But what it does mean is that we've just like helped them pivot.
Yes.
Just like slight pivot.
Yeah.
We're not throwing them in jail. We're not throwing them in the system.
Pivot.
Which
makes me think of that Friends episode.
Oh my God. Pivot! Pivot! It's the best.
It's the best. Like, when I think of Friends, that's what I think of. And when I think of juveniles, that's exactly what I think of. You got to pivot.
You have to pivot.
Yes.
But so many adults who are raising kiddos, whether it's grandparents or foster parents or biological, there is no playbook for how to do this thing. It is the hardest job in the world to raise a kid. And then when your kid starts making some choices that you're like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. You really don't know what to do.
You really don't know what to do. And some parents underreact and some parents overreact.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Talk about the caregiver piece in all of this, whether it's substances or sexting or somewhere in between.
Yeah. What I really think happens a lot of time with the caregiver component is either they don't know, because again, you don't know what you don't know,
right?
Or they get to the point where they feel like they have tried so many things and it hasn't worked. They're just done.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like not even the extremes on the reaction, but the extremes on how much you're aware. Like, denial is bliss, right? Ignorance can be a positive thing. And then you get to the point where it's like so extreme you can't ignore it anymore.
But you feel like you've tried everything, so you just don't even, right.
And so what I really like about the caregiver piece is being able to validate what you just said. Like, there is no playbook. but also every child is different. You know, if we both had kids that had the exact same situation, what you did for your kid doesn't mean it's going to work for my kid. And so really trying to help caregivers not just focus on the problem, but like the underlying root, right? Like sometimes it's not just about giving a consequence. If we're not treating the root that's causing the problem, we're just slapping a Band-Aid on it. And so really trying to help them see why it's not working and that it's also not their fault.
Correct.
Right? Like you have to
Yes.
know the whole inner workings of it in order for it to be effective.
How to rebuild trust, right? Because if your kid does make an unhealthy choice, it doesn't mean that they should be grounded for the rest of their lives.
Correct.
Right? It also means that we need to like take steps to continue to help them make healthy choices, but we can't ground them for forever.
And that's the other thing is so many times parents do grounding, which I'm not saying I'm opposed to that, but sometimes you're grounding the kids from the thing they need to get better, right? So I was just having a conversation the other day with the JPO.
A juvenile probation officer.
Yes, thank you. And he was like, this kid isn't even allowed to like play a sport right now because he's grounded.
And that's the thing that is keeping him socially connected.
And it's like, why would you take that away?
I know.
Right?
I
and
know.
like the thing that usually becomes a trigger is like the phone.
Yes.
Right? And
Oh,
it makes complete sense to take the phone away. But if my primary network of support is on my phone, completely taking it away, well, how else are you providing social interaction? Or the video games. If I play a lot of online games and that's my means of peer support and you take it away, how else am I getting it? And so it's really trying to help people understand maybe in the way that you're also trying to give a consequence, it's actually perpetuating the problem.
Right.
Where now, not only am I having the problem with the choices I made, but those choices were to help with these problems that I have, and now those problems are even magnified. So now I'm even in a more tempting situation to do something I maybe shouldn't to make myself feel better, and then it's just over and over again, right? And so trying to help people understand not just validating their experience and trying to help them problem solve, but helping them maybe understand a different perspective of their teen. A lot of times, I think teens get a really bad rap
Absolutely.
in general, right?
Absolutely.
And so you have like the typical teen behavior, or you
Which,
have...
by the way, is the same as when we were teenagers, and it's the same when our parents were teenagers.
But we didn't have all the resources kids have now to deal with it.
Of course not, but
Yeah.
we had sex, drugs, and rock and roll just like
Yes,
they did. You know what I
yes,
mean?
absolutely.
And thank goodness, you could not pay me to be a teenager right now.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Because we could get prank called when we were kids,
Yeah.
right? But if we didn't want to pick up the phone,
You didn't have to.
We didn't have to. I would not want to be a teenager if my life depended on it right now. But the underlying rebellion,
It's the
trying
same.
to push against, trying to figure out who you are, and it's what their brains are hardwired for.
Yes.
Their brains are designed to take risks.
Yes.
And to figure out
But they
who
don't have their
are.
frontal development.
Right.
So they don't have a way to control
right,
it.
Right. They're
but we
leading
don't
with
think
their
about
emotion.
that.
We don't think about it.
We think they're making the choice and they're making the wrong choice. And then going back to the caregiver part, a lot of caregivers, in my experience, think that means that they have failed.
Yes.
And
That's right.
even when I have like adult clients and their parents may be involved in their care, they're like, where did I go wrong?
Yeah.
And I tell them all the time, you can do everything right. If there were ever such a thing and you were the perfect parent, your child could still make choices that get them in bad situations because you can teach, but that doesn't mean they utilize, right? Some of us need to learn the hard way. Some of us are just programmed for more risk. Like, you can do all the things, but I'm still my own individual person. I'm going to make my own choices. And so helping the caregiver to also know it's not completely on them. Like, there are parts that they are responsible for. There are consequences that they can face. But ultimately, it's the relationship that makes the difference, right? You play your part as a parent. They play their part as a kid. And you have to work together to make sure you get the right outcome.
And I think what I like about the way that you structure not only and we're going to talk about program specific here in a second, is you do, individual families, but the way that you have certain programs designed, you almost have like a cohort of caregivers and a cohort of kids so that with the caregivers, they can understand that they're not alone.
Yes.
Because we talk so much about peer pressure and peer influence with young people, but it exists every bit as
Every
much
age.
with parents.
Yes.
And a lot of parents don't really talk about the challenges they have with raising kids.
Because again, if I feel like it means I'm doing it wrong,
I'm a failure.
Why would I
Right.
talk to you about it?
Exactly. And it can feel just like kids have peer pressure to keep up. Adults have pressure to, am I providing enough? Am I doing the right thing? Am I involving them in enough activities? Am I involving them in too many activities? Am
Still
I being
pressure,
too
but
strict?
just a different part.
Yeah. Right. And so you actually put groups of caregivers and groups of kids together, separate, but together, so that they can really kind of learn from each other.
Yes.
Genius.
Well, I don't know if it's genius, but I think it's the most effective. I tell people all the time, I believe that as humans, we're just relational individuals, right? Like we thrive off of relationships.
Yes, connection.
Connection is where the change happens. It's where the love happens. Like it's where we know we're seen and heard. And if we aren't connected to people, like if we don't get validation, if we don't get support, if nobody checks on us, no matter what we're doing in life, we don't thrive.
Yeah.
Right. And so we can put ourselves around people in the same season of life. They don't have to be exactly like us. They don't have to be in the exact specific situation. But if they're in the same season of parenting or going to college, and you can share the similarities and you can learn from each other and you can vent together and be like, yes, this is hard. Like you're not alone anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem, right? Like so many times we get in our own thoughts and we feel like we're alone and then we don't know how to fix it and we feel like it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But if we can be around people and know that there's change and solution, then it's not so hard anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So talk to me about LIFT.
Yeah. So LIFT is learning and interventions for families with teens.
Learning and interventions for families with teens.
Yes.
If you have teens, your ears should be perking up right now.
Yeah,
Ronnie's perking up. Ronnie's perking up.
So the goal is a lot of programs that focus on family education do a lot of the education part. But a lot of times people leave feeling like they don't understand the implementation part.
Yeah, so they understand the what, but not the how.
Exactly. And so even what I like to do in therapy is to make sure you leave with something tangible to do.
Some like tools.
Yes.
Some things in your tool belt.
Some tools are like the next thing to focus on or something to try to see if it works.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. And so the goal is not just to give the education, but to make sure you know what to do with it. And so LIFT is an 8-week program. Like you said, it separates the caregivers and the teens.
So you need a caregiver and a teen.
Yes.
Okay.
One of each.
Yep.
Minimum. And what we do is we really focus more on the early prevention through the specifics of mental health. So a lot of programs talk about substances by themselves, talk about how to avoid substance use or like trends in substance use. But what I have found, like we were saying earlier, a lot of teens want to experiment. But a lot of teens, in my experience, experiment and then find that it helps relieve something that they didn't know was a thing that they could relieve, and then they end up using it more, and that's self-medicating.
Yep.
And a lot of kids in my practice do self-medicate. Like maybe they're not treated for their anxiety, or they're not treated for their ADHD, or their depression, and they're using substances, and they're like, "Oh, my life is better.
Oh, this feels
good."
Right.
But then it causes so many problems on the back end. And so
including maybe getting in trouble with school.
Yes.
Or
at least a juvenile court.
Right.
And so it's really about focusing on early prevention through mental health. Parents get to learn about diagnoses, ways to treat those medically. So
and you're not diagnosing anyone.
Oh,
They're
no.
just getting information.
They're getting information. Like first week, we talk about the difference between typical teen behavior and mental health behavior. So like an example, we always think of teens as being irritable, right?
Yeah, right.
Teens are hormonal, they're cranky, they're slamming doors, they're yelling.
Right.
But also irritability can be a symptom of anxiety. So if I'm really anxious with my own anxiety, I'm a lot more irritable, right? But as a parent, again, we think a lot about the behavior. We don't think about the underlying.
Yeah. How do we know if they're just being a typical teenager
versus there's an issue to red flag and fix?
Yeah.
And so, yes, we talk about the symptoms of mental health diagnoses, not diagnosing anyone, but giving an example like these are typical behaviors. How many of these do you feel like may be checked for your teen? And then if they are checking some boxes that maybe need to be explored. Here's some medical approaches. A lot of people don't know the difference between a therapist and a psychiatrist. Right? I have people that come to therapy and they're like, can you medicate me? And I'm like, no, I don't have that privilege. I didn't go to school that long. And so trying to help people understand so they don't have to do a bunch of cold calls. And they know like how their insurance works to get to the right people. So trying to help them problem solve. And then we talk about relational approaches. So let's work on having chores and a behavior chart. And let's have consequences and not just implementing these things, but doing it effectively.
And together even. Because at the same time that you're talking to the adults, then
the kids are getting the same info.
They're getting the same thing. So then in a perfect world, when they go home and they're on the bus or in the car or, on the way to soccer practice or whatever, they can actually be like, oh, well, I learned this. Well, I learned this. Well, what if we sit down and actually talk about maybe some appropriate consequences or what would it look like for me to have a couple of chores? Like, what would I even want to do? What's realistic for me? What can I manage? Like, maybe I could take on more. Maybe I could take those kind of, it's almost like a unstructured, structured conversation. Like you're sort of laying the groundwork for adults and kids to have a conversation that's productive.
And the thing that I like about Lyft is we're not just educating about the approach, but we're actually doing it with them.
That's right.
So like when I'm in the group with the parents, okay, well, what would be a chore? What would be an actual reward? Not just punishment, but reward.
Correct.
And so we're talking about that. The teens are having the same convo on their level that's relevant to them. And then we're coming back the next week. Okay, well, what did you create?
How did it go?
What did you do?
Yes.
How's it going? What do we need to problem solve? And then we end the program talking about things to be on the lookout for. So know the apps and what they do, right? Because almost all teens now have the apps.
Are you listening, Ronnie?
Okay. And then, you have like the hidden files. You have the files within the files you have to check for. And a lot of parents don't know about those. And so being mindful of that.
All the different drug trends.
All the different drug trends.
Right.
The certain things that kids are using. It's important to know. A lot of kids will have conversations knowing that you don't know. And if you know keywords, then you're in the know, right? And so these are the things they tend to be doing. These are the things they tend to be using. Here's a picture of what to look for. And so hopefully the goal is families leave with a knowledge not just about things that they can do tangibly, but things to be on the lookout for and to have a better understanding of that can be carried on throughout life.
And ages for the kids, typically.
So typically what studies have shown is that things tend to be really effective if you do the middle age years, right? High school is like the whirlwind where you get a lot of exposure to a lot of different things. So we're primarily targeting 7th through 9th graders. So middle school, oh, look, he's like, hey, me. Middle school in the first year of high school.
And it doesn't have to be when there's a problem.
No,
because again, I'm just going to say the key word here, which is prevention and early intervention. So it's not, so sometimes you will do programs where kiddos are mandated, basically, where it's like, you got a choice. You can either do this program or you can be hooked up into this system. Or we're now doing it at a local alternative school where kiddos have gotten to the alternative school. And it's like, if you participate in this program, you will have less days here. But we can also self-select into this. Because maybe we're noticing that our kiddo, who was once the angel that wanted to sit next to us and watch movies, now doesn't want anything to do with us and might be slamming doors and sleeping all the time. And maybe they've been asking some questions about vaping and you're like, where are all these questions coming from? So parents can self-select into this group. Okay.
Anyone is welcomed. Again, 7th through 9th grade, we just want to be mindful of having a small set where they don't get exposed to other things outside their age range. But yes, it's open to anyone. And the goal would be, in my mind, if you have a 7th to 9th grader, there's no reason not to do it. Just like I tell people, life can be going good, but I think everybody benefits from therapy.
Well, and we get oil changes. We get oil changes because if we wait to change our oil until we're broken down on the side of the road, it is too late.
And I have a lot of other problems.
We got a lot of other issues than just our oil changing, right? So it's routine maintenance. It's routine check-in. So we are doing a cohort this summer at APC where, and so we'll be at our office. Food is provided.
Dinner is always provided.
We know that, Family's got to have dinner on the table. We
Yes.
provide dinner. It's an 8-week session.
8 weeks.
Okay. So 8 weeks, and usually like how many hours at a time?
So it's 2 hours a week.
Okay.
We usually do a Tuesday, Thursday. That's
Okay.
tends to work for everybody. We do 5:30 to 7:30. So that's why dinner's included.
Yep.
It doesn't prevent you from coming. You don't have to figure out dinner before or after. And 2 hours a week for 8 weeks. We put it all together, peer support, education, tangible steps. And then hopefully it kind of gets you on the right path to making some changes.
That's right.
And again, it doesn't have to mean that something is wrong, but we all need tune-ups. Sometimes we all need to like shift things a little
That's
bit to
right.
make it better. And we just got to figure out the right path.
And this program is at no cost
Completely free.
because of Children's Trust Fund.
Yes, which we are greatly appreciative
Yes. And so it can be from families from Shelby County, Jefferson County, Birmingham City, Walker
for.
County.
Greater
Doesn't really
Birmingham
matter.
area,
Greater
as long
Birmingham.
as you can get here.
That's right. And so we don't have dates set yet, but we're in the place where we're really trying to publicize and get a cohort, because typically you like about how many families? I mean, you don't want it to be huge, right?
No, but I would say ideally, it also depends on how many people are participating, right? Ideally, I would say you have 15 to 20 parents. And that's the other part is it depends. Do you have 2 parents coming per kid?
Right.
Do you have 1 per kid? Usually the kid group, I wouldn't want more than 10 to 15.
Right. Yes.
Because, the goal also is that you're participating, right? You're not just sitting there listening.
Oh, right.
So there needs to be time for communication and questions, and we don't want anybody to feel like they don't have time for that.
Totally.
So it's small, but not too small, enough, again, where you can get the support, but also making sure that everybody has their time to fill their needs.
So if there are families that are listening and they're like, yes, this is the thing for my 7th, 8th, and 9th grader, what is their next step?
Yes, so they could call me at my practice, Intentional Healing. And then from there, we would get them on the list, make sure that we know what their needs are in regards to how many people would be attending. And that really helps us to figure out the cohort. Like, when are you available? You have to schedule things as a whole, but also we like to take into consideration, like, when do people need it?
Yeah.
And what works for the people that are interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, for somebody who this was their first podcast, you did great.
Oh, thanks.
Because guess what? You love what you do.
I do.
You love teenagers.
Yes.
And that's why you're successful.
Thank you.
Because in my experience, and I think you can echo this, teenagers have a very, very, they have a low tolerance for BS.
Oh, yes.
And they know when adults don't like them.
Yes.
And when adults think that kids these days, you know what I mean? They can see it a mile away.
Completely.
So because you love working with young people, particularly young people that might have a couple of wrinkles,
Yes.
they can see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really can.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite is when they really see it. Like if I have a parent that calls me and they're like, hey, something's going on, and they won't tell me, but they told me Miss D knows. Do you know what's going on? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, should I be concerned? No. And they're like, okay. Do you know what I mean? As long as they know that it's a safe space, that's what makes me happy.
Okay, I know this isn't why you're on here, but
Yeah.
do you have a room for, like, in your caseload? Like, if there's somebody that is not interested in the group aspect, but they're like, Miss D, can you work wonders with my child and my family?
Everybody wants the magic wand, right? I don't have the magic wand, but I try to make a difference.
But if people are willing to do the work and they want to come and understand that it might get harder before it gets easier.
Absolutely.
Are you accepting new clients?
I'm taking a wait list.
Okay.
So I'm currently full.
That's how you know she's good, y'all. That's how you know she's good.
I'm currently full, but things do tend to change during the summer.
Yeah.
And so I'm currently on a wait list.
Okay.
Yes.
That's how you know she's good.
Thank you.
Dannette, thank you.
Yes.
I'm really excited about everything that we're doing together,
Agreed.
the partnership, because we play a supporting role in helping recruit for the kids and in helping just with some of the logistics.
Yeah.
But I mean, early intervention is just such a key
Critical.
and often overlooked piece. And so thank you for what you're doing. If you are interested in getting on her wait list, but also the LIFT cohort, please reach out to her. We'll include all of that information and we'll tag you
Perfect.
in everything. If you liked what you heard, and I know you did, please consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing. We love subscribers.
Very important.
Yes, to the Shield. Thank you again to Children's Trust Fund, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.